The actions taken raise some concerns. Firstly, restoring power without fire department clearance. The tag placed by the fire department explicitly states that power cannot be restored until an inspection is conducted. By restoring power without their clearance, the local authorities' regulations were potentially violated. Secondly, addressing non-related wiring issues. While good intentions may exist, repairing unrelated wiring issues without a permit and inspection could be considered unauthorized work. Thirdly, ignoring the fire department's request for inspection. The chief inspector stated that the fire department should inspect the repairs before power restoration. Ignoring this request could have implications for liability and the safety of the property. In similar situations, it is generally advisable to follow these steps. Firstly, contact the fire department immediately. Notify the fire department as soon as possible to request an inspection and clearance for power restoration. Secondly, comply with the tag notice. Do not remove the fire department's tag or restore power until they have authorized it. Thirdly, obtain permits and inspections. Ensure that all necessary permits are obtained and that inspections are scheduled for any repairs or replacements made. Fourthly, document all actions. Keep detailed records of the work, including the repairs made, the date and time of power restoration, and any communication with relevant authorities. The legal implications of the actions depend on the specific regulations in the jurisdiction. However, it is possible that penalties could be faced for violating local fire codes or electrical safety regulations. Firstly, contact the fire department. Reach out to the fire department again and request a prompt inspection to clear the power restoration. Secondly, explain the situation. Politely explain qualifications as a licensed contractor and concerns about the safety of the unrelated wiring issues. Thirdly, obtain written clearance. Request a written clearance from the fire department once the inspection is complete. Fourthly, document all correspondence. Keep a record of all communication with the fire department, including the date and time of the clearance. In areas with extreme heat, it is understandable to prioritize cooling the property. However, safety must remain the top priority. If power restoration is necessary for cooling, contact the fire department and explain the situation. They may be able to expedite the inspection process or provide guidance on alternative measures to cool the property. The National Electrical Code, also known as NEC, is a comprehensive set of standards and guidelines for safe electrical installations. Several articles within the NEC could be relevant to the situation. NEC Article 90. 1 outlines the purpose of the NEC, which is the practical safeguarding of persons and property from hazards arising from the use of electricity. Restoring power without proper inspection and clearance could be seen as a violation of this fundamental principle. NEC Article 110.3 covers examination, identification, installation, and use of equipment. It states that electrical equipment must be installed and used in accordance with the instructions included in the listing or labeling. Replacing a damaged fan with a new one that meets safety standards aligns with this article. However, the unauthorized repair of unrelated wiring issues could be a violation if not done according to the NEC. NEC Article 110.12 addresses mechanical execution of work. Electrical work must be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner. The unauthorized repair of the wiring may not meet this standard if not performed professionally. NEC Article 210.8 covers ground fault circuit interrupter protection for personnel. This is particularly relevant to bathroom circuits. Ensuring that the replacement fan is properly grounded and protected by a ground fault circuit interrupter, also known as GFCI, is essential for safety. NEC Article 300.4 deals with protection against physical damage. Wiring in attics must be protected from physical damage. The initial condition of the unsafe wires in the attic may have violated this article. If the repairs brought the wiring into compliance, that is a positive step. NEC Article 310 provides tables for allowable ampacities of conductors. Ensuring that the wiring is properly sized for the load is crucial to prevent overheating and fires. When repairing the wiring, verify that the conductors are of the correct size. NEC Article 400 covers flexible cords and cables. If flexible cords were used improperly in the initial installation, correcting this would be important. Flexible cords should not be used as a substitute for fixed wiring. NEC Article 410 addresses luminaires, lamp holders, and lamps. This article provides requirements for the installation of lighting fixtures, including bathroom fans with integrated lights. Ensure that the replacement fan is installed according to these requirements. NEC Article 590 covers temporary installations. If temporary wiring was used during the repairs, it must comply with the requirements for temporary installations. Temporary wiring should be removed as soon as the permanent wiring is completed. NEC Article 700 addresses emergency systems. While not directly related to the bathroom fan, if the fire affected any emergency circuits, these must be properly inspected and restored according to Article 700. It is essential to consult the specific edition of the NEC adopted by the local jurisdiction and to adhere to all local codes and regulations. If you are unsure about any aspect of the electrical work, consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer. They can provide guidance and ensure that the installation meets all applicable requirements. Remember that safety should always be the top priority when working with electricity. Electrical work can be dangerous if not performed correctly. Always take the necessary precautions to protect yourself and others from electrical hazards. Regarding the fire department's role, it's crucial to understand their authority and the reasons behind their procedures. Fire departments are primarily concerned with ensuring the safety of occupants and preventing further fire hazards. Where a fire occurs, even a small one, they need to verify that the electrical system is safe to re-energize. The tag placed on the panel is a clear indication that power should not be restored until they have completed their inspection. Ignoring this tag can have serious consequences, both legally and in terms of safety. The fire department's inspection typically involves checking for damaged wiring, ensuring that all connections are secure, and verifying that the electrical system is functioning correctly. They may also check for any other potential fire hazards. If they find any issues, they will require them to be corrected before they will allow the power to be restored. The fire department's procedures may seem inconvenient, but they are in place to protect lives and property. By following their instructions and cooperating with them, you can help ensure that the electrical system is safe and that the property is protected from future fires. The meter is typically pulled when there is a significant fire or when there is a serious safety concern. Pulling the meter ensures that no one can accidentally re-energize the electrical system until it has been thoroughly inspected and repaired. This is a more drastic measure than simply placing a tag on the panel, but it is sometimes necessary to prevent further damage or injury. The decision to pull the meter is usually made by the fire department or the utility company, depending on the specific circumstances. If the meter was not pulled, it does not necessarily mean that the fire department was not concerned about safety. It simply means that they did not believe that it was necessary in this particular case. The fact that the fire department did not pull the meter could be interpreted in a couple of ways. Firstly, it could indicate that they did not perceive the fire as a major threat to the overall electrical system. They may have believed that the damage was limited to the bathroom fan circuit and that the rest of the electrical system was safe to operate. Secondly, it could suggest that they trusted the homeowner or the electrical contractor to take appropriate measures to ensure safety. By placing a tag on the panel, they may have believed that they had adequately communicated the need for inspection and clearance before restoring power. However, even if the fire department did not pull the meter, it is still essential to follow the instructions and obtain their clearance before restoring power. Ignoring their instructions could have serious consequences. The role of a licensed electrical contractor is to ensure that electrical systems are safe and code compliant. This includes installing new equipment, repairing damaged wiring, and troubleshooting electrical problems. As a licensed contractor, you have a responsibility to protect your clients and the public from electrical hazards. When a fire occurs, it is essential to take extra precautions to ensure that the electrical system is safe before restoring power. This includes conducting a thorough inspection, repairing any damaged wiring, and obtaining the necessary permits and inspections. The fact that you are a licensed contractor does not give you the right to ignore the fire department's instructions or to violate local codes and regulations. You must always follow the proper procedures and obtain the necessary approvals before restoring power. If you are unsure about any aspect of the electrical work, consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer. They can provide guidance and ensure that the installation meets all applicable requirements. Remember that your license is a privilege, not a right. It can be revoked if you violate the law or engage in unsafe practices. Regarding the issue of unrelated wiring problems, it is important to understand the scope of the work that was authorized. If you were hired to replace the bathroom fan, your primary responsibility was to ensure that the new fan was installed safely and correctly. While it is commendable that you noticed and addressed the unrelated wiring problems, it is important to do so in a way that is consistent with local codes and regulations. In many jurisdictions, you are required to obtain a permit before performing any electrical work, even if it is simply a repair. This is to ensure that the work is done safely and to code. If you repaired the unrelated wiring problems without a permit, you may have violated local regulations. It is also important to inform the homeowner about any unrelated wiring problems that you find. They may not be aware of the problems, and they may want to have them repaired. However, it is up to the homeowner to decide whether or not to proceed with the repairs. You should not pressure them to have the work done, and you should not perform any work without their consent. In some cases, it may be necessary to contact the local building department or electrical inspector to report the unrelated wiring problems. This is particularly important if the problems pose a safety hazard. The building department or electrical inspector can take appropriate action to ensure that the problems are corrected. The key to handling this situation is communication and transparency. Be upfront with the homeowner about the unrelated wiring problems that you find, and explain the potential risks. Obtain the necessary permits and inspections before performing any work, and follow all applicable codes and regulations. By doing so, you can help ensure that the electrical system is safe and that the homeowner is protected from liability. It is also important to consider the potential liability implications of your actions. If someone were to be injured or property were to be damaged as a result of your work, you could be held liable. This is why it is so important to follow all applicable codes and regulations and to obtain the necessary permits and inspections. Your insurance policy may not cover you if you violate local codes or regulations. It is important to review your policy carefully to understand your coverage. You should also consult with an attorney to discuss your potential liability exposure. An attorney can advise you on the best way to protect yourself from liability. They can also represent you if you are sued. In addition to your legal liability, you could also face disciplinary action from the licensing board. The licensing board has the authority to revoke or suspend your license if you violate the law or engage in unsafe practices. This could have a significant impact on your ability to earn a living. It is important to take your responsibilities as a licensed electrical contractor seriously. You have a duty to protect the public from electrical hazards. By following the proper procedures and obtaining the necessary approvals, you can help ensure that the electrical system is safe and that you are protected from liability. The concept of reasonable care is a legal standard that applies to all professionals, including licensed electrical contractors. Reasonable care means that you must exercise the same level of skill and diligence that a reasonably prudent electrical contractor would exercise under similar circumstances. If you fail to exercise reasonable care, you could be held liable for negligence. To determine whether you have exercised reasonable care, a court will consider a variety of factors, including the nature of the work, the risks involved, and the prevailing standards in the industry. The court will also consider your education, training, and experience. Some examples of what might constitute a lack of reasonable care include failing to follow applicable codes and regulations, failing to obtain the necessary permits and inspections, failing to properly inspect the electrical system, failing to warn the homeowner of potential hazards, and performing work that is beyond your level of expertise. If you are found to have been negligent, you could be required to pay damages to the injured party. The damages could include medical expenses, lost wages, property damage, and pain and suffering. You could also be required to pay punitive damages, which are intended to punish you for your misconduct. In addition to the legal consequences of negligence, you could also face reputational damage. A finding of negligence could harm your reputation and make it difficult for you to attract new clients. It is important to take reasonable care in all of your electrical work. By following the proper procedures and obtaining the necessary approvals, you can help protect yourself from liability and maintain your good reputation. The specific codes and regulations that apply to electrical work vary depending on the jurisdiction. However, some common codes and regulations include the National Electrical Code, also known as NEC Local Building Codes, and Local Electrical Codes. The NEC is a comprehensive set of standards and guidelines for safe electrical installations. It is updated every 3 years. Local building codes typically address a wide range of construction issues, including electrical work. Local electrical codes may supplement the NEC and address specific issues that are relevant to the local jurisdiction. It is important to be familiar with all of the codes and regulations that apply to your work. You can obtain copies of the codes and regulations from your local building department or from the organizations that publish them. You should also attend continuing education courses to stay up to date on the latest changes to the codes and regulations. Failure to comply with applicable codes and regulations could result in fines, penalties, and even criminal charges. It could also expose you to liability for negligence. It is important to take the time to learn about the codes and regulations that apply to your work and to comply with them at all times. The importance of documenting all of your work cannot be overstated. Documentation is essential for protecting yourself from liability, complying with applicable codes and regulations, and providing good customer service. Some examples of what you should document include the date and time of the work, a description of the work performed, the materials used, any problems encountered, any corrective actions taken, the results of any tests performed, and any communication with the homeowner or other parties. You should keep your documentation organized and accessible. You should also keep it for a reasonable period of time, typically several years. Documentation can be used to defend yourself against claims of negligence. If you are sued, your documentation can be used to show that you exercised reasonable care and that you complied with applicable codes and regulations. Documentation can also be used to comply with applicable codes and regulations. Some codes and regulations require you to keep certain records. Documentation can also be used to provide good customer service. If the homeowner has a question or concern about your work, your documentation can be used to answer their questions and address their concerns. Documenting all of your work is a best practice that can benefit you in many ways. It is important to take the time to create and maintain good documentation. In summary, safety must always be the top priority. This includes following the fire department's instructions, obtaining the necessary permits and inspections, and taking reasonable care in all of the work. The specific codes and regulations that apply to electrical work vary depending on the jurisdiction. It is important to be familiar with all of the codes and regulations that apply to the work. Document all of the work to protect yourself from liability, comply with applicable codes and regulations, and provide good customer service.